Hi, I'm Shelniel Bostic. I'm a massage therapist and welcome to Healing Hands. In this episode, we are going to be covering the forearm and the elbow, as well as going through the massage techniques that I go through in that region. So, some joint play if absolutely needed and necessary, but definitely stretches for that region, for this particular moment in time. So, I have a particular variety of massage lotions that I either will or will not work with. And there are also times that I'll actually work without a lotion of any kind. And it's just depending on the slip, the glide, and traction, depending on what I choose and what I need for whatever I'm working on in any given region. Sometimes I need the additional glide and to go through the tissues. Sometimes I don't need that. I need the grip so that I can keep enough traction for what I'm doing. And it can vary. Some people like lotions, gels, oils, or in my case, I've created a brand of my own to which has kind of a rather unique feel to it as well. So it is all preference based, and best way to find out your preference is to play with the different modalities of it. So let's get into the forearm and elbow region. So, as I'm working through this area, I'm noticing that he's got a number of muscles that are super tight, which you'll either consider that as hypertonic. There are a number that are hypotonic, not too many, but more hyper than hypo. And for this region, I'm going to do the stretches that I'd shown you previously, but when you focus primarily on the hand, it's usually with the digits, and then you will feel the stretches in the palm. But to get the forearm flexors and extensors, that one actually involves a bit more. So I'm just going to quickly go through everything as a small little recap, but at the same time to get things more stretched out in this region for him.
So by going back to the hands, you're actually making it easier to work on the forearms.
So when the forearms are tight, they also can affect the palm as well. So that's why I go through the stretches through the digits as well, so that I get rid of all the extra tightness in this region and not forgetting the thumb, because it also needs the time and attention. But with the greater stretches that I do, that also goes through the forearm flexors and extensors. When doing stretches to fingers, thumbs, or wrist, refrain from going past the client's end range for that joint. I don't normally go through my stretches this quickly,
but I just want to at least get a bit of that tightness out of the way, or I'll just repeat them again. But as you can tell, I've been seemingly holding for about 5 seconds. I usually, when I do stretches, I prefer to go up to the 30-second, but it's not an absolute rule.
While the client's hand is clenched within a fist and wrist in slight traction, which allows a deeper stretch for the forearm extensor muscles.
That's better. Okay. Let's go chip through here. Not nearly as tight. But holding the stretches longer would reduce the tightness in the region. And as you've already noticed, he twitched. So that area is also probably pretty tender still. So usually what I find is to pay attention to what the person's doing on the table, whether that can be done in facial expressions or muscles jumping or them trying to get away from you. Or if you listen to their breathing, you can tell if they stop breathing, it's not a good sign. Or if they're breathing heavily, more harder than they were at the start, something's changed. So pay attention to on. And I'll always give them the chance to say, this pressure's too much, or it needs to be a little adjusted to be a bit more. It's usually helpful to have a great dialogue with your clients so that this way they don't feel like they've been steamrolled over, or they don't feel like you've been using a feather to massage them. don't forget around the joints for the elbow. They could use a little time and attention as well, because there's the fascia, the tendons, the connective tissues. They all live in that region, which you are very much aware of as a student of massage or someone who's just dabbling and learning. As I'm doing this, I'm not putting a lot of pressure around this area. Main reason, there's the nerve, the artery, the veins that also live in this area, and or at least I don't want to be impinging anything to cut off circulation in those areas. In actuality, there's nerves comes down in 3 areas: lateral, medial, and also through the center as well. So it's like hitting the elbow right there. It is not funny when it gets hit, mainly because there's a nerve that's slipping there. And I really don't do very much for joint play in this region, because literally you only have the 2 bones that live in the region. So, yeah, the best way to do that, well, or at least one of, is doing a bit of a scissoring, a little bit of a split, but not too much. Just checking and making sure that you don't use too much pressure in the process, but just enough to get things moving. And I also don't go out of my way to do distraction of the elbow. That would not be in anybody's best interest.
Why not?
Well, you can possibly cause harm if it's done incorrectly. And on top of that, it's generally out of my scope of practice to do that type of work.
Okay.
All right. So for the most part, the stretches done, as well as some of the massage techniques for the time being. The tonicity in the muscles is better than when I started, even though longer would be nicer. But that I will have to do at another time point. So that is, for intents purposes, that for that region.
Thank you for watching this episode with Healing Hands on the covering of the forearm and elbow joint. Have yourself an exceedingly wonderful day.